I think a lot of people recognize the prestige that's associated with the program. As I've heard, I guess kind of once a fellow, always a fellow. Help a fellow out, and I think that opens doors that you otherwise might not have access to. And so, for me, coming in maybe as a ledge aide, in an office, I think I could do that. I think it wouldn't necessarily be that hard, but I think there's something extra special about being a fellow, and I think that's what has drawn me to it.
Hello and welcome again to another episode of Sacktown Talks. Today we're joined by future fellow Andrew Nickens. Andrew, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. We haven't had someone who is about to be a fellow on yet, so it's always an interesting process. A lot of people on the show are former fellows, so kind of take us through the journey, I guess, of what drew you to the fellowship program and kind of the process of applying for it.
Yeah, sure. For me, the fellowship is something I'm always looking forward to. I've known about it, I think, for 4 years before I even applied last year. So for me, again, it's something I always look forward to. And it's a great opportunity to get immersed in the Capitol, working in the building. So I thought it was, a great opportunity in that sense to get my foot in the door. And of course, it's such an excellent program. I mean, there's some people speak so highly of it, and as you said, some of the former people who've been on the show, I've watched, fellows, and it opens a lot of doors, and I'm excited for that.
No, definitely. Kind of, what was the process to apply and kind of the deadlines for you to kind of get into the program?
Yeah, they work almost a year in advance. So the application for this year's cohort, which begins in November and spans 11 months, it started. The application was due early this year, so almost 11 months ahead of time, and it involved crafting a personal statement, letters of recommendation, and a policy statement as well. Which is really fun to write, actually. But yeah.
So what did you write in your policy statement?
Yeah, for me, I had a lot of experience in higher education policy analysis and advocacy. For me, higher ed is a big part of a lot of the work I've done as a student advocate, as an intern, and so for me, I wrote about what I think is a really essential issue in higher education for California, and that for me was increasing and expanding enrollment in the CSU and UC. There's been I think a number of certainly I would say battles in the legislature about how many in-state students should we have versus out-of-state students, and how does impaction at the CSU affect students who are qualified, have all the major preparation, the courses that they need to get in, but then are denied of their college of choice, their major of choice. So for me, I think broadly increasing enrollment in the UC and CSU would be an excellent thing, especially to meet California's degree shortage gap, which we've made a lot of progress towards closing, but still remains some work to be done on that.
So, we were chatting a little before the show. You just graduated from UC Davis. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What did you study there while you were there?
I was a political science public service major, and I also minored in professional writing.
Okay, cool. So you got the writing thing down. That's always good to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of minors and majors out there, but for me, I was like, well, if I'm going to spend $40,000 in education, I want to make sure I can use it afterwards.
Right.
And for me, there's nothing you use more than writing, and especially, in the legislature, I think so. So far it's been proved really usable.
Yeah. And then prior to UC Davis, you spent some time in the community college system, and you actually worked for a nonprofit regarding community colleges. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah. So this is a little hard to admit, but I didn't do the greatest in high school. For me, school it wasn't always easy to perform, I think, perfectly academically, but community college was there for me when maybe I wasn't at, perhaps my best, and I thrived. I had an amazing time at community college, and coming off the heels of that, I was a Boy Scout, I was an Eagle Scout, and I aged out, and I was looking for something to do, something new to do. And for me, community college governance filled that goal, that hole that left. Being a student leader, and so I got involved locally at Folsom Lake Community College, and did some district lobby days from the Los Rios Community College District to the Capitol, and lobbied on AB2, AB19, which is a great time. And from there, that legislative experience led me to pursue office in the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, the nonprofit, and I did lots of work as the vice president of legislative affairs. Sponsored a number of bills and budget requests that were mostly successful too. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, it's a cool way to learn the process. Kind of, do you remember kind of what members you worked with when you were kind of going through that process and testifying and things like that?
Oh yeah, Assemblymember Medina was a huge one. Not only for AB 1456, the kind of higher ed flagship Cal Grant reform bill, but also on another bill that was I think more personal to the community colleges, and that was a AB 337 on adding, well, perhaps not adding another student to the board of governors of the California community college system, but making sure they can vote in their first year of their second year term, effectively adding 2 student voting members. So I worked a lot with Assemblymember Medina. Is a great partner, and it's very sad to see him. I tuned in for the Assembly Higher Education Committee hearing where he was addressing the committee and talking about his legacy and all the work he's done. It's really saddening to look back on that. But
yeah, you're going to be part of, I guess, great rotation here as a bunch of new members are coming in. So it's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I guess, can you take us through the schedule? So you've been accepted to the program. Kind of when are you going to start the program, and when are you going to know when you get assigned a member?
Yeah. For right now, there's not a lot going on. I think we'll be meeting the rest of the Assembly Fellows this summer. We'll get to have a chance to get to know each other, and maybe I think some light programming. But then in November, October, we'll have some full-time orientation programming, meeting committee consultants, the staff. I think I believe chairs of important committees, Department of Finance, Legislative Analyst's Office. But right before in November, when the election happens, all the new members get sworn in, and that's when the selection process takes place. I'll have an opportunity to interview with any of the Assembly members I want. And then I believe how it works is I get to rank the members on a list, on my own list, and then all the members who interviewed with fellows, they rank the fellows on their own list. And then the program director, in my case, the Assembly program director, ranks or plays matchmaker between the fellow and the members, usually trying to get them their first or second choice. So, and then at that time, I'll be placed in an office and be a full-time fellow. And I think after that, there's professional development opportunities and brown bag lunches and the rest. So be a great time.
I guess that's interesting. Your member probably isn't elected yet. So
that's a real possibility. Yeah. With what is it now? 30 some odd members leaving.
Yeah. And leadership changes and committee changes, there's all going to be a lot of new going on. So it'll be a very interesting time you're coming into this. How long does the program go for?
Yeah, so it spans 11 months, I believe, beginning in October, November. So wrapping up around the same time, I guess, just before that next year.
And I guess what drew you to the fellowship versus just coming here and trying to find a job with everyone else, trying to get just a regular staff job?
Yeah. Well, I guess the easy answer is, I think a lot of people recognize the prestige that's associated with the program. As I've heard, I guess kind of once a fellow, always a fellow. Help a fellow out, and I think that opens doors that you otherwise might not have access to. And so, for me, coming in maybe as a ledge aide, in an office, I think I could do that. I think it wouldn't necessarily be that hard, but I think there's something extra special about being a fellow, and I think that's what has
Mhm.
drawn me to it.
Yeah. When I looked at the fellowship, 20 years ago, it was like, you get like $2,200. It didn't seem like a lot back then. Kind of what's the stipend now, and kind of how are you planning on kind of living on it and working down here?
Yeah, it's kind of a headache. I believe now it's I think it's approximately 2,800.
Mhm.
So not much
Yeah,
more,
a little more.
a little more, yeah,
8% inflation. Yeah,
but still not great. So we'll see how that goes. Be budgeting and the rest. But yeah, I'll be a poor fellow for
Mhm.
a year.
Right. And where are you planning on living? And you gonna be able to walk to work, or kind of what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm hoping to move to Midtown actually pretty soon here. I got some roommates lined up with another Senate fellow, which will be great. I'll get the inside look at
Mhm.
how the other program operates. A little taste of that. So yeah, I'll hopefully be able to be
So when
close.
you apply, do you pick whether you want to be an assembly fellow or a senate fellow, or are there other options open?
Yeah, so the application process for assembly, senate, and actually even executive and judicial, they're all
Mhm.
separate applications. When people think of the fellows, I think they kind of get lumped in, but certainly the assembly and senate, making up both branches of the legislature, and the executive, of course, being with the administration or any of the agencies.
Right.
So the process is similar. The timelines are similar, but the application requires some different features. Like, for instance, I know for the executive fellowship, instead of a policy statement for the assembly, you're asked to write a memo to some head of an agency on a particular policy issue, and make a case in regards to that issue.
Right. And then, like, how many fellows are there amongst all the different kind of branches?
Yeah, I'm not sure I know the exact number, but I think the assembly has around, I want to say 16, 18 fellows. I want to say the Senate, it's slightly less.
Mhm.
And then among the executive, like around the same amount, between the kind of, you know, 12, 14, 16, 18,
Right.
all that kind of range. So I'd say altogether, close to 30, 35
Right.
fellows. Yeah.
And you kind of mentioned that you're connected with a senate fellow. Do they give you like a list of people who are going to be fellows, so you guys can kind of reach out to each other beforehand, or you just happen to know this person already?
No, I did know them actually already. They're a great friend of a few years, but I believe pretty shortly I'll be given a list of all of the rest of the assembly fellows. And what's really cool is a lot of the fellows tend to use that list to connect and get housing together, which
Right.
I know is a common thing, which is super cool. I was fortunate enough to be able to set that up ahead of time. I think on the Senate side, they've already received a list of their fellow fellows,
Right.
but assembly not yet.
So it's kind of like interesting, this year we've had, I guess we just finished the budget,
Mhm.
and we just saw kind of like a lot of hard fought policy battles go down. And it usually always happens in the second year of a 2 year session. But kind of how we were talking, there's a lot of new members coming out, a lot of change coming up. Kind of like, how are you preparing yourself for kind of like entering this phase, and kind of looking forward to, I guess, policy battles and challenges?
Yeah. Um, those are really hard. Those are difficult. I would probably rely on some of my past experience while I was the vice president of legislative affairs at the Student Senate. Um, the SSCCC played kind of a major role in I would say, the higher education coalitional landscape, in particular in terms of the community college on a number of um, somewhat controversial policy
Hmm.
issues. I'd say one of them being maybe most high profile, Assembly Bill 928, which has established the intersegmental group on transfer reform, and joins together um, all the segments in UC, CSU, and community college, at least
Right.
the public ones in higher education. And there were a number of policy considerations that had faculty up in arms and over one issue or the other, and administration and students in others, and it can be really challenging to manage, I would say, kind of those both sides in any kind of a policy debate. But for me, I think what really helped me move through it and get to the end result was, I think, earnestly listening and assuming good faith on behalf of the other group, and doing as much as possible to incorporate their perspective into the bill. But I think ultimately, there are winners and losers, and there may be some hard feelings around that, but you do your best to work with others and move through it. So collaboration, respect, good faith, I think they're all really crucial to moving through that process.
So you just graduated. You're a young man. How are you spending your summer here before you enter the working world for the rest of your life?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm staying pretty busy. I am doing a full-time summer internship with the Public Policy Institute of California in the Higher Education Center, specifically looking at the effects of the pandemic on remedial education reform in the California community colleges. So it's super exciting for me. I have a ton of background in that, and it's really exciting to dive into the issue area. But in terms of fun, I love the outdoors. Like I said, I was a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
I guess still am kind of. So I love the outdoors. I love.
You remember all the knots? Are you still really good at that?
Oh no. I mean,
no.
not as well as I'd like to, but don't break any rope out of it. I don't think I'll be able to do that. But I love backpacking. So I'm doing a backpacking trip actually this weekend. And I also love whitewater rafting. We'll be doing some of that too. It's always a great time.
Right. Good times indeed. Kind of at the PPIC, kind of what you said, you're working on some higher education stuff. I know we always love the polls they come out with. Kind of, are you guys doing anything? Do you do anything relating to the polls? Or are you just doing more looking at policy issues and things like that?
Yeah, mostly on the policy research side. Although in the short time I've been there, a few weeks, it's really quite eye-opening to see how immensely important those polls and surveys are. So not as much on that. But I know those are immensely useful. I've gotten kind of an inside look to how PPIC really strategically, comes out with this kind of information, what the voters think during crucial, times, when key battles are cropping up in the legislature or otherwise.
Yeah,
during elections.
It's like a bellwether. You know what's going on out there.
Totally.
It's totally interesting. So we were talking, you went to community college, right? And as we were talking, you got 2 years of community college free, and they just extended that in the budget, so more kids get to go to community college for free. Kind of how helpful is that to someone kind of going into the university and the UC system, to kind of have those 2 years taken care of without having to as you said, pay what, $40,000? So like what advantage did that give you kind of like now today?
Totally. Oh my gosh, so many advantages in the world. I mean, I was part of the SSCCC, so I will encourage anyone and everyone to go to community college before transferring to a CSU or UC, but maybe I have a little bias in that sense. But it was huge. I mean, for my parents, not having to worry about paying for the first 2 years of college, that essentially being free. It's a huge boon to those students who, might not have a traditional pathway to higher education. And that's certainly the case for community college students who are more often than not older, are coming back to higher education after an extended period of time, seeking to perhaps retool, learn new skills in a changing workforce. So it's tremendous. And like I said, I got 2 years of community college. That was only because I was first time and full time. But what this new proposal will do is make community college tuition free for all. So not even those who didn't have the luxury of trying to pursue a higher education right out of college, and can instead come back and have a higher credential and be able to contribute to the economy with a credential that gives them the opportunity to do that.
So like just like going to UC Davis, for 2 years versus 4 years, how much money did that save you?
Oh my gosh. Well, the tuition alone at UC Davis for I believe a quarter is a few thousand, several thousand. So over 2 years, it saved me thousands of dollars. And in terms of tuition, I would say, like, I don't know, $20,000 maybe. So it's a ton.
Yeah, no, definitely meaningful. I was shocked that just to provide everyone for free community college was only $25 million. You think it would be way more than that. It's amazing.
There's actually a funny note about that. I think the reason that is because of the Board of Governors fee waiver, now called the California College Promise Grant. This program essentially waives tuition. In recent estimates, about half of students qualify for the California College Promise Grant, which is a low income program, and that's about roughly 50% of community college students who qualify for tuition-free education underneath the California College Promise Grant. So I guess you're adding, about
another half, right?
Yeah, the rest of the half onto the program essentially.
Oh, interesting. So maybe total it's like 50 million, but this additional that is 25. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Just kind of you're in this position, you just graduated. A lot of your fellow students, there's a lot of talk about student loans and student debt. Kind of, just in your experience and kind of some of your classmates, how are you guys anticipating kind of dealing with, paying these loans and, especially in a situation like yours where you're going to be a fellow and not, maybe make a lot of money, you're trying to learn some certain things. I know they're kind of forgiven right now, or kind of on forbearance, I guess is the better word, for a time telling, maybe till like August or something like that. But kind of what are you hearing out there, and kind of what are you planning on that?
Yeah. I mean, especially for those who've went to CSU or UC for all 4 years, I mean, the debt can be crushing, or even a private institution. So, going into the workforce, you kind of have to deal with that hanging over your shoulders. So
the real world's knocking, right? Rent, utilities, bills. Yeah,
totally. So, for me, I think I'm more fortunate than I would say most. And because I went to community college, live with my parents, which is not an uncommon thing, and saved a lot of money that way, and was able to save money working on the side too. So, fortunately for me, I don't think the burden will be as bad, but I know for a number of my peers, they'll be paying this off for quite a while. So I think, the attitudes around this have been really focused on Cal Grant reform, and the deal in last year's budget to revamp the middle class scholarship. And the legislature this year has also made a really solid step to achieving the kind of full reform as it was outlined by basically all of California's higher education stakeholders. So it's getting better. The picture is getting better towards at least a debt-free kind of solution, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you this summer. I hope you enjoy your time at the PPIC, get some time out there. And for anyone listening, if you guys are looking for a Boy Scout, there's actually one coming here. So look forward to checking in with you once you get assigned a member, and kind of see how your 11 months are going.
Yeah. Thanks very much
for joining us, Andrew.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.